I'm Pat Summerall.
And I'm Tom Brookshire.
For 10 years in the late 60s and early 70s, they hosted our first NFL film show. Recently, we brought them back to their old set to do some reminiscing.
I don't know what kind of glue Sid Gilman has used on the Oilers, Tom, but he sure has stuck together some kind of a team.
What the hell is this, Star Trek? Look at that. Look like I got a space helmet on.
It was with a football helmet that Brookie first introduced himself to Pat. Pat was a former end and place kicker.
I remember he tackled me and hit me so hard he split the helmet. And while I was lying there in a heap, I said, "What? You got the game won. What the heck is wrong with you?" And he looked at me and he said, with stronger language, "You shouldn't even be playing," he said. That was really our first formal meeting.
You didn't really know Pat at that time, though, did you?
I didn't like him, but I didn't. No, I didn't know him. I didn't know
like him either. Let's make that clear.
Over time, the friendship grew, and thankfully, so did the notoriety Pat and Tom brought to us at NFL Films.
Everybody was beginning to watch, and the owners and stuff would come up to us, they'd say, "Well, we really like that show."
I don't know how that, because, our clearances then, we were on 1 a.m. in the morning. It was, unless you were a bartender or a parking lot attendant.
Most of those people we knew.
One time we went into a New York restaurant, a pretty nice restaurant, and the piano player had a toupee and a yin to play football. So we ended up with the people at the restaurant, patrons, on the floor in a football formation. He was trying to kick the toupee, between, okay? So
what do you mean kick the toupee?
Well, he was going to hold it. He was going to kick it off the guy's head.
Took it off the guy's head?
Yeah, so
he went home with it.
Yeah, we went.
They called us the Sunshine Boys, and we rode pretty high when we were together. I remember a couple of times the guys at the network, executives and the like, saying, "Hey, maybe you guys are having too good a time. Maybe you're enjoying life too much."
The Sunshine Boys became the Martin and Lewis of football, the top tandem in network broadcasting.
Find out. This is the Redskin dressing room.
Yes, what is it?
Hi, I'm Pat Summerall. Is Coach Allen here?
Oh, you're not Pat Summerall. I know him. You're not Summerall.
Well, yes, I am, too.
If my assistant, Mr. Brooks.
But eventually, the network decided it was time for a change.
They were going to talk about breaking up the team. I mean, what was your reaction to that, Brookie?
Good news. Good news. We were going to kill each other, We had just too good a time in our lives. It was not healthy for us to be together any longer like that.
After the breakup, Pat's career continued to flourish. So, too, did his excessive drinking, to the point that it almost cost him his life. By 1992, Pat's friends and family knew something had to be done.
Here's a book that was written by Bill Lyon. It's called When the Clock Runs Out. And I want to read something from it. Pat, it's a quote by you, and you say, "Brookie is the closest thing I have to a brother. He's the only one who could have tricked me and gotten away with it." What did you mean by that?
Well, I was here. I was in Philadelphia. While I was in the car, the NFL, it was actually one of your cars, one of the NFL film automobiles, bringing me from where I was staying to hear that the phone rang, and it was Tom on the phone, and he said he wanted me to meet with a client. When I walked in the door, I realized we weren't meeting with a client. It was the beginning of what they call an intervention.
I don't like to trick my best friend this way, but if this is what we have to do to get it in and out on the table, then we'll do it. I felt like in a way I was sort of responsible for not allowing it to happen, but even energizing this thing that Pat had by being always there, ready to go at 4 in the morning, So I was responsible too, in a way.
When you walked into that room, can you remember your initial feeling?
Anger was the first thing I felt. My feeling was, hey, these people have got the problem. It isn't me. They don't realize who they're messing with here. I don't have a problem. It's them. They had all written letters, some of them very long, which I still carry with me.
Do you remember one letter that was read to you that really had an impact?
Oh, yeah, I certainly do. They all had an impact. I mean, the head of CBS, the head of the PGA Tour, the head of the NFL. But my daughter's letter, my own daughter.
I never really sat down and told him how I felt about, what we had disintegrated into. And it was like somebody giving me a blank check to tell me write a letter and tell my feelings. I had a bout with a serious form of skin cancer the year prior. And you know, that's a devastating thing personally, and my struggle was 6 or 7 months long, and I never heard from him during that time. And I chronicled my disappointment, you know, and how alone I felt. Anybody would have been sobered at that letter, and I intended it to be so.
She said, you know, I've always been proud to be your daughter. We're married. I have a different last name now, but in recent weeks, I've been ashamed that we share the same last name. And you think about that. When your own offspring says, I'm sorry, we've got the same last name, that's a frightening experience to go through.
I was the last guy in this intervention to talk to him. I said, will you go to the Betty Ford Clinic? We have a Learjet standing by. And he said, yep.
Do you remember what the conversation was? That's a long flight.
Yeah.
We laughed.
We laughed the whole way.
You laughed.
We laughed the whole way.
What we didn't know was that they had stocked the plane with vodka and Jack Daniels. They figured we were going to have one last go at it, you know, before we got there, but we didn't touch it. But the normal stay at the Betty Ford Center is 28 days. I stayed 33 days, and I asked him why when my 28 days were up. I said, why am I staying 5 extra days? And they said, because the first 5 days you were so mad at everybody, including us, that you didn't get anything out of the program. It was hard for me to stand up in front of a group of people and say, hey, my name is Pat Summerall and I'm an alcoholic.
Did Tom ever contact you when you were in the Betty Ford Center?
Well, nobody can contact you.
Oh,
you can't do that. You have no communication with the outside. The only person who got through was Mike Ditka.
Well, is that right?
The big thing I told him was, hang in there. He's got a lot of people in his corner, a lot of people praying for him and pulling for him because he's special. And, you know, to believe in himself. And it'll all work out. And he did. I mean, he turned his life around terrifically.
Pat's still going strong on Sundays. Sobriety saved his career and no doubt his life.
He continues to grow as a human being, and I think that's what I'm most proud of. He didn't rest on it once he became sober. Every day he tries to better himself.
See, his great strength by doing this and saving his life and everything helped me get all of my crazy actions under control. And that, you know,
So it changed your life too?
Oh my gosh, his doing that changed my life completely.
I never had a brother. I was raised by an aunt and an uncle. I was almost sent to an orphanage, so I don't know really what brother-brother relationships are like. But I think, well, I'm sure, if I ever had a brother, I'd like him to be like this. And I've always considered Tom, but since we became friends, since we started off hating each other and came to respect each other and like each other, love each other, that if I ever had a brother, here he is, right next to me.
He really acted as a brother in the intervention. He was willing to sacrifice whatever, certainly the friendship, to do what he believed would be necessary to save Dad's life. The irony of it is that they're closer than ever, and I think they're having more fun than they ever have.